Rhode Island's governor has ordered the layoffs of 1,000 state workers after a judge blocked the governor's plan to close state offices today and save money. We get an update now on the situation from Gary Sasse, director of Rhode Island's Department of Administration. He essentially acts as the state's chief financial and chief operating officer. He joins us on the phone from Providence. Mr. Sasse, welcome to Bloomberg News.
Good morning. Good afternoon.
Sir, was this an action that had to be taken?
Well, we have to balance the budget. The legislature left us with a $70 million hole of undistributed savings. We would have preferred to have shut down or furlough days. We think that would have been the fairest way to spread the pain. The unions rejected that and left the governor with no option but to order 1,000 layoffs.
Sir, was this a result of the overall national economic picture, or was this something that was just endemic to the state of Rhode Island?
It was a combination of both. Last year, when the legislature adopted the budget, they cut $70 million but did not identify where that $70 million savings was to happen, and that was the initial hole that we have to close. In addition, since May, our revenues have declined by about 2 or 3%, which has been pretty much driven by the national recession.
Mr. Sasse, Lori Rothman here. What do you think is the best compromise right now between Rhode Island and the state workers? Where do you go from here? What's the next step?
Well, our next step is to put in place the process to lay off 1,000 state workers. We're beginning the notification process. We're meeting this afternoon to identify a layoff list based on seniority, and we intend to proceed with that until we put the state in a position of having a fiscally balanced budget.
Sir, Rhode Island's unemployment rate is 12.7%. That's the second highest in the United States after Michigan. How is this going to impact your unemployment rate and the state's efforts to try to find jobs for its citizens?
Well, it's something that the governor would prefer not to do. As I mentioned, we would prefer shutdown or furlough days, but we have a constitutional requirement in the state that the budget be balanced. And we have very few options. If you think of state spending, we spend Rhode Island has about a $3 billion budget. About $1 billion is for personnel, about $1 billion is for entitlement payments, and about $1 billion is aid to cities and towns. And the proposal the governor put forth was to achieve about 30% of the savings through personnel reductions. We would prefer to do it through furlough and shutdown days. The unions are not cooperating, and we have no choice but to balance the budget and achieve those revenues through layoffs.
Mr. Sasse, could those 1,000 state workers get their jobs back if the judge orders, comes back? I know that the furlough plan was put on stay, but if the judge reverses that decision?
No, the courts have no jurisdiction over layoffs. That's completely.
So those layoffs would have had to happen regardless of what the judge said about the furlough days?
No, these layoffs would not have had to happen if the unions agreed to the furlough days. It wasn't what the judge said about the furlough days.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand that clearly. Okay, continue.
Yeah, we needed to achieve furlough days. We would have had to renegotiate the contracts with the unions. The unions are not willing to renegotiate and give us furlough days.
Do you think those unions will renegotiate with you now, though?
Right now, we're proceeding to lay off 1,000 employees and put that in process. We're going back into court on Friday. If the court permits us to go forward with the shutdown days, it's something that we'll have to consider at this time. But right now, we have no options based on what's happened in the state but to go ahead with the 1,000 layoffs.
Mr. Sasse, is this the end of the layoffs, or could there perhaps be more to come?
That's something that will be influenced by how the economy performs and what revenues we have available.
All right, Gary Sasse, director of the Rhode Island Department of Administration, joining us on the phone from Providence. Mr. Sasse, thanks.